The basis of magic is to show you something you previously believed was impossible. And in so doing, you're left, if only for a moment, you're left reconstructing, remaking sense of the world.
What you thought.
And in order to do that, your mind scrambles, it shotguns, it balloons with possibilities, because without there being one, you have to consider several.
Welcome to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by my man, Audley Stevenson, the Odd Man. He'll unpack wisdom and insights from a cross-section of top quality performers in business, media, sports, entertainment, and lifestyle to uncover key elements to help you live your best audacious life ever. So without further ado, here is the Odd Man.
Greetings and salutations, I'm Audley Stevenson, and welcome to the most audacious podcast you'll find on the net. This is the Audacious Living Podcast, and whether you're returning or you're here for the very first time, I say thank you for tuning in and joining us on our journey as we continue our ongoing goal of helping our listeners live their best audacious lives ever. As always, I would encourage you to connect with us through our social media channels. We like to stay as active as we can, and certainly on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. You can find us there. Also on YouTube. And if you're watching, then you'll know we're on YouTube, and all you got to do is tap the notification bell down below, and you'll be subscribed to our channel. So again, like, follow, subscribe, share, and let's continue to do our part to keep this audacious conversation going. Now, on today's episode of podcast, we're going to take a bit of a magical journey of wonder, if you will. And we'll even get a little bit of amazement, too. We're going to touch on all that stuff as we welcome magician, speaker, and author Brandon Love. Now, Brandon is a great guy, first off, and he and I had a wonderful chat. It was a great chat talking to him, discussing and exploring the power of possibilities and all the positive ways we can benefit when we're in that state of wonder, which of course can lead to us being happier, healthier, and more successful in life overall. And so that's something Brandon and I got really deep into. You know, in addition to being a remarkable magician, again, Brandon, as I mentioned, he's a professional speaker, and he really takes time and focuses on helping people open their eyes to wonder and the new possibilities that can come with it. And, with those new possibilities, that also includes energy, excitement, and the joy that it brings. So it's a really good place to be in, and we'll talk more about that. You'll hear more about that in our conversation. So stay tuned, folks. You've got a good one on your hands, and you may even see a magic trick or two. Enjoy. Hey, Brandon, thank you for joining me here on the Audacious Living Podcast. How are you?
So great to be here, Audley. Thanks for inviting me to join in a conversation today.
Well, it's great. It is great to have you here. We tried to connect before. It didn't work out, but it doesn't matter. We're here now. And again, on this podcast, we talk so much about sort of, the possibilities and the potentials that lie within all of us, and the great things that we can accomplish from an audacious state of mind, if you will, and just kind of doing things in that bold manner. And so when I look at your work and your incorporation of magic and how you ignite possibilities and spark imagination, I just thought it was a really, really good fit, and glad you could be here. And maybe we can sort of start in sort of how you made the connection to sort of magic and our potential.
Man, come out swinging hard, huh? I love it. So I started learning magic when I was a kid. I think most magicians have the same story. I saw a TV magician. My parents paid attention. They got me a magic kit. There's a very kind of rote script that's followed by a lot of magicians, whether intentionally or not. And I actually started learning it because I wanted to impress people.
Of course.
I wanted to make friends. I wanted to be able to connect with strangers and not be made fun of in school. I thought it would, help against that cause. I'm not sure it did, but there was all these like more egoistic reasons that I started studying magic and tricks. And then the older I got, the more I have to admit, initially you start learning magic and you're kind of disappointed, right? You have all these imaginings about how magicians create miracles, right in front of your eyes. And when you realize what the actual secret is, I don't know if you've had this experience, but it's like a bubble burst,
I get it.
Right? When you learn what was actually done to create the illusion, it's disappointing. Which is a healthy reminder that mystery is powerful for its ability to inspire curiosity, but I digress. So I learned a bunch of these secrets in the beginning. I was super disappointed. And then I started to realize that it was no less genius that a magician would think of something impossible and then find a way to make it look like it wasn't anymore.
Right.
And then I started to think about how we construct, not in a magical context, but our normal everyday lives. How was our reality constructed so that a magician could fool us at any given moment?
Right.
And nowadays, I spend a lot of my time thinking about how much magic reminds us of the limits of our perceptions. And I like to say magic is constantly telling us that we're always missing something. Which is pretty easy to agree with, right? It's not a new idea for certain. And we just have to take a moment right now, think of all the things you're not thinking about, right?
That's correct.
Infinite.
Well, a term you heard, I don't profess to be a magician at all, but I'm familiar with the term of misdirection, right? It's intentionally wanting you to look elsewhere so you can not see what's really going on, right?
Absolutely. And it shows up in all sorts of ways. And the worst part is, and this is the real rub, as soon as you think you've got things figured out, as soon as you think you've cracked it, that's when you're most vulnerable.
That's right.
Right. The old games, I talk about con games a bunch. I'm really fascinated with con artistry. And do you know what, maybe I'll ask you, put you on the spot a bit of it. Do you know what the con in con game stands for?
I do not know.
It's funny. I didn't know for years myself. And
no idea.
I thought it was maybe convict or control or con like negative or something.
I've never even really put thought into it, actually. So you got me.
Why would you, right? Unless you're a performer, why would you? It stands for confidence. And the reason is that the con artist has to build a sense of confidence in the mark, in the suspect, in the victim before being able to pull off the stunt.
Because you can't do it, right? If they don't believe in you.
No, if I invite you to guess which one is the queen and you don't get it, if you get it wrong right away, you're not going to put money down. I need you to be confident. You know where it is. I'll let you win a few times. Then I'm going to take you for all you're worth.
Yes, okay.
And I think this is a lesson. I'm rambling on here, oddly.
No.
It's in the new year.
We're on the right path. Ramble is good here. Brandon, ramble is a good thing here, I tell you.
All right. Okay. All right. So I think this lesson of that we can learn from a con game or from a magic trick, which is that our perceptions are limited, but that we forget our limitations constantly. And as soon as we forget, as soon as we feel like we've got it figured out, that's when we're most vulnerable. That's when we close ourselves off to new possibilities, whether it's ideas or innovations, right? We close ourselves off to people because we think we know the people we're addressing, that we're thinking about. We put them into boxes and we tuck them away.
Right.
Whereas if we could remember, we could practice doubt on purpose and remember there are things we haven't yet detected, haven't seen beyond our perceptions. It sparks that bit of curiosity and creativity again, I think.
Right.
we just create more mystery for ourselves, which again is the power of magic.
Right.
Right.
Phew. So I tell you what I find really interesting is, and specifically in the context of, this magician who I'm envisioning, the con. Let's see the con artist as an example. He's got all the cards laid out, and I got to guess where the queen is. We as individuals go into that situation knowing full well that his job, that con artist's job, is to trick us, and we still go in with all the confidence of the world to prove that individual wrong. Like this is what they do, right? And to give us, and I think that gives us that confidence to still think that we know better than them is absolutely amazing. Because so that's where the giving us that confidence, that's where it comes from. They make us feel like we know better than them.
Totally. And that's the beautiful, it's like a little bit of, it's the Matrix, right? How far into the channel do you want to go? Because as soon as a con artist knows that people know he's there to take your money.
Yes.
So his job is getting around that first hurdle and making you feel special that you're somehow beating the system, and that's, it's amazing. The more I learn magic and the more I learn the subtlety of misdirection. A lot of people think misdirection is like, look over here while I do something with this hand.
Right.
Which it is rudimentarily.
Yes.
But also something, I can ask you to think of something. And in the moment I ask you a question, I can do something else, because you're just for that moment, you've distracted your attention.
Right.
So it can be much more subtle, and magicians are masters of manipulating perceptions, and then influencing how you should interpret those perceptions.
Right. The power of focus really comes to mind as you talk about that, right? And now in this instance, in this context of our conversation, it's the other way around, because they're diluting our focus, if you will, and making us magicians make it look at other things. But I think it reinforces why it's so insignificant, and a really strong life lesson, Brandon, about why we need to focus on what the task is in hand, or what our end goal is.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a just a call for growth, to be open to the areas where you could grow and improve. Again, it's funny, as I say all these things, there's an irony about saying we're always missing something and yet professing it, to be true. I think there's like, if we can all, I think we're overconfident more often than we realize.
Got you.
And it burns us in lots of ways. And I think if we had checks and balances in place, we could catch ourselves. The problem is we don't know when we're overconfident. That's
right.
That's exactly the issue.
Especially when we know confidence is a good thing, and you're supposed to be confident. You're supposed to go in thinking that you know the answer or know what you're doing. But that fine line of overconfidence and confidence, it is a fine line. And so I think that's where we get caught.
That's 100%. And we don't, if I went into a high school and said, everything you've heard about confidence is wrong, right? You don't want to be confident. There would be no hope for kids. That's so much of your self-esteem is built into being able to fake it till you make it, into being confident in yourself and your identity, your values, etc. So there is definitely a lot of virtue from confidence, but exactly as you say, the slope from confidence to unjustified overconfidence is slippery and undetectable.
Yes.
And there's so many great examples of this in research and in just looking around at people, right? But one of my favorite examples is a guy named MacArthur Wheeler.
Okay.
You may have heard this story. A guy back in 1995, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. This guy robs two banks.
Okay.
Broad daylight, at gunpoint, and he's not wearing a mask.
Okay.
In fact, not only he's not covering up his face at all, and he smiles in the security camera on his way out the door of the second bank.
That's funny.
It's absurd, right? It just sounds, I've never taken bank robbing 101, but my guess is first thing you
don't do. Right? That's right. You're right. I'm with you.
So anyway, an hour later, police show up, they knock on his front door and arrest him. And what's most amazing about the story is he's blown away. He is shocked and surprised that they found him. Because, and here he's like, he's explaining to officers, he's like, I don't get it. I was wearing the juice. How did you ever find me? And like, what do you mean wearing the juice? And it turns out that this guy had learned recently about invisible ink. Have you ever if you use lemon juice and water, you can write a message on paper.
Yes,
and
that's right.
It dries invisible.
That's right.
So he made the logical leap and said, well, if lemon juice can write invisible messages, maybe if I put it on my face, I will be invisible. I will be invisible. And not wanting to be a fool, he tested the theory. This is before digital cameras, of course.
Okay.
So he set up a camera and he set up what he thought was a timer. Okay. It was a short timer, so it took a picture without him in front of the camera.
And he was like,
and he thought he was invisible. And so he went to rob a couple of banks.
Okay.
Right, but here's the thing, and I love this story so much because again, we can laugh at it and be like,
sure,
what idiot? If we want to call names, there's so many that are available to us here. How do you ever get to that point?
Yeah.
And then the lesson is, but we're all wearing the juice, right? Every single one of us is in some way confident about something that we're completely wrong about.
Yes.
Right. Yeah. Confidence isn't a measure of truth. It's a measure of coherence of the story. So I think there's some value, at least in what I'm trying to do with magic and my messaging in trying to bring this to light a little more.
Well, and so thanks for sharing that story. First off, I hadn't heard it before, so it was a good one, definitely, and something to chuckle at. But the underlying message in there, Brad, I think it's really, really important because I think that's a check for us that we need to check ourselves and remind ourselves about where we're at and how much do we think we know and how accurate we truly are. Because it is very easy to go into a situation going, yeah, I got the answer, or yeah, I know how this magic trick was done, and be totally way off base here. So I think that's a really, really, really powerful lesson because we all do it, right? We all kind of feel that way sometimes. We're like, oh yeah, I got this good, and you drop the ball and you go, how? Well, we didn't check ourselves.
Absolutely, every single day, and think of all the things that get overlooked or missed just because we've been doing it. This happens a lot because our brain takes so many shortcuts, right?
Yep.
Our habits, our patterns, we start with a lot of effort. Eventually they take no effort because we're just on autopilot.
Got you.
And so many of those things on autopilot are areas for improvement. There's ways to make our lives better, both professionally, personally, in our relationships. But we're very comfortable and used to feeling like we got it all figured out. And I think that's dangerous, at least from the life I want to live. So.
No, I hear you. I'm with you on that one loud and clear. And I think we should be checking ourselves, and we should be, just again, it's actually a development thing, right? Like from an evolution standpoint and growth. Okay, am I, this is where I am at, but am I sure this is where I'm right about where I'm at, for example? So no, I'm with you loud and clear. I want to go back, if you don't mind, because you're sort of talking about how you got into magic for very egotistical reasons, if you will. When did you make that connection to sort of the potential that exists around us and in the world? When did that kind of make the connection between the two? When did that happen?
Oh, yeah. So, gosh, I've always, I was lucky in that I didn't learn a lot of good magic for a long time. Okay. So I learned a lot of cheap tricks growing up and through high school and university, things that I could show friends and, casually, and they would be fooled by them, but it was like not really powerful. So I also I was still going to magic shows and being fooled. And so I kind of towed this line between having a glimpse behind the curtain, so to speak, but also being fully aware of the experience of magic and how powerful it was for my imagination, for lighting up that curiosity and creativity.
Got you.
And I think towing that line it pulled me further into the study of magic because I wanted to know how I could use it artfully.
Got you.
To create mystery and then direct that mystery towards helping people do stuff. now that's like the hypothetical philosophical angle. Right. When I was in university, I met a buddy who was a juggler. Okay. He was performing, he was juggling. I did magic on the same stage. A few years later, he reached out and said, "Hey, I'm going to be a speaker for high school students. I'm teaching Covey 7 Habits, actually. Okay. Can you teach me a magic trick?" And I taught him a magic trick. And then he said, "You should be a speaker." And I said, "What is that?" What do they do? And I realized then and there that, oh, there's an opportunity to engage people in sort of my arena, yes. Using tools I have and talking about kind of what I want. And if people find it valuable, they'll hire, they'll pay for this, I guess.
Yeah. No, so
that's been the trajectory a little bit. And I kind of feel, the more I think about it, the more I've discovered like these little details in the story that I've overlooked or forgotten that were pretty significant at some point, but changed. Yeah.
Well, it's important to kind of go through that process, Brandon, as we go along, because then we even so the details you talked about, it's important to kind of go back and go, oh yeah, that did matter. Here's how it impacted me, or that did alter the path where it was going on. So I think those little things are, and it's important to sort of tell that story, because I think every time you tell that story, there's an element or aspect of it that becomes more real to you. So I think, our story is always evolving. It's always developing. And so. Totally is.
Yeah, totally. It's so fun, right? Why I don't want anything to be stagnant or stale, even my own memories of my story. I should be spicing my life up a little bit every time.
One of the lines I love that I've heard you say a couple times is magic, ignites the imagination. And when you're in that imaginative state, there's all sorts of beautiful things can happen, right? We're the most creative, the most innovative, the most energized at times, right? And so the fact that, magic can ignite that, I think is so beautiful. So you talk about that process of the ignition process, if you will?
Yeah, it's not as complex maybe as one might think. The basis of magic is to show you something you previously believed was impossible. And in so doing, you're left, if only for a moment, you're left reconstructing, remaking sense of the world.
What you thought.
And in order to do that, your mind scrambles, it shotguns, it balloons with possibilities. Because without there being one, you have to consider several. This is a regular deck of cards. I can show you. Okay. This is a plain deck of cards here. And if I take a card, let's use this one off the top, the 5 of diamonds.
Yep.
I can, throw it near the middle.
Yep.
Right. And it should be in the middle.
Right.
So it shouldn't be on the top.
No, it shouldn't, because that's not where you put it. Now, I saw you put it in the middle. It's not where you put it.
we could try it again. Sure. About the middle. Not quite.
Yeah.
Not on the top again.
Right.
Not on the bottom.
Right.
But again, where it is, so it should definitely not be on the top.
That's not it.
Okay. You can do this over and over and over again, and it continues to come back to the top. And eventually you'll see there's only one 5 of diamonds in there. Yes. Eventually you start to think, well, I thought it was this way, and then nope, not that way. Okay, there's another thing. Oh, and not that way. And suddenly possibilities dance through your mind.
Yes.
Most of them are wrong. Tons of them will never lead you anywhere.
Right.
And yet it's the energy and that excitement. There's a joy in that, which can ignite other things. So I just think I could talk about magic forever. And I feel like I never get tired of it, because it's so, and it's not just tricks. I learned tricks. I've learned sleight of hand and conjuring.
Yeah.
But like there's magic. This is magic, I'm on a laptop. I'm not plugged into anything right now.
Right.
And somehow signals are transmitting in real time off of satellites in space through concrete and glass and connecting us across cities.
Right.
Whew.
Right.
Like, if we had the eyes for it, wonders everywhere waiting for us to sort of imagine.
And they totally can. And what I love about that is it forces us to be in a state of wonder. I mean, oftentimes when you watch a magician, you leave going, how did he do that? It's not like, at the end of the show, he goes, okay, guys, here's the sequence to all my tricks. You leave wondering, how did he do that? And you're almost in a constant state of wonder, because every time you think about that experience, you're going, how did he do that? And for some people, they're okay with just continually asking themselves, and others will want to search for the answer. Mm-hmm. And I think regardless in which other state you are, it's a good thing to be in, right? Because you're forced to question what you thought to believe was correct.
Absolutely. When do you learn the most? Right? We learn the most in that state of wonder. The state of wonder is perpetual for children. As everybody does, right? Who doesn't like watching a kid figure something out the first time, when they're, or experience a new sensation, a new everything, a taste, smell. Yes. There's so much in that place. And quickly as we become adults, our minds sort of grow calluses. If I can be crass a bit, and we kind of harden over and we forget that we're in the middle of a miracle every single day.
Yeah.
And it would be daunting if we were in that. I mean, when you're a kid, your brain is working. How many calories do you have to consume for your mind to grow? Right. And how many hours of sleep do you need? And all these things to stay at that rate. So we obviously can't do it 24/7 as adults. We just don't have the resources. But if we know we can access it, we can put ourselves there more than we do now.
Almost scheduling it, and there's nothing wrong with that. Even setting aside some time where we say, here's where I'm gonna be in the state of wonder, let's say hypothetically, and maybe that's not exactly what it is, but whatever you want to call it. This is where I'm gonna put my mindset in this state where my thoughts can run wild.
Yeah.
Right.
It's a meditation. It could be a meditation. It could be there's a ton of new evidence and new research. I'm so excited to see this. This is an area of interest in leadership and management now, because there's wonder. It does a bunch of things. It, first of all, creates a sense of purpose or passion, right? It gives us cause to believe there's something more than who we are, which excites us. It also unites people in an experience. So just like a good comedy show, just like a good movie, right? You talk about books with friends. We see a magic show with somebody, you experience something together. You climb a mountain, you see a view, whatever it is, that you have a thing that is very closely both of yours.
Yes.
Which is so rare. So if you can use wonder in the workplace, right, and get everybody to share the experience of something amazing.
Yes.
That brings the team together. Even if it has nothing to do with what you're talking about, it will gel the relationships.
That's right.
Wonder also has healing properties. So there's research that it generates energy, which then, puts more joy into people's lives, which reduces stress in people's lives. And we know stress has all sorts of carcinogenic pathways attached to it, et cetera. Right. So I really, it's a funny thing to talk about because it feels so
wrong. Yeah,
right? It feels so casual.
We're talking about in the workplace, some kind of fun or wonder. Come on, we got stuff to do. How do you measure that? It's not there's no productivity in that.
Exactly. How do you show the return on investment? It's harder to show, but it's definitely a soft skill. I think we could invest some time into.
Well, much can be said about what it does to the environment and how people feel about the environment and how people, the enjoyment people have being in an environment. You think about, I know it's slightly changed because we're working more remotely, but you think of how much time people spend physically in a workplace, and even remotely, you're working with people, the time that you spend with them, how do you feel about that? And if these things that, maybe we need to think more about how we, actually measure them and how they influence the world of work and what we do, because there are some benefits to it. There's no question about it.
100%. How much potential our organizations I mean, I work a lot with students too. And students are just a microcosm of adults.
Absolutely.
Right. And I like to think we all think as adults in a workplace that we're different, and we're not. If anything, we're more closed-minded and we're more jaded and cynical and all those things, which clamp down on the curiosity, creativity. But students, students immediately appreciate the value of a growth mindset, being curious. You get to a point, you're like, even as leaders, CEOs, managers, directors, we're expected to stop asking questions
and just have the answers.
At some point, right? How stupid is that? How much does that hinder a company's capacity? How much is being left off the table, untapped potential, because we haven't, been willing to learn from the people on our team. We haven't been willing to invite other ideas and open the space for questions. And
well, and we know this, right? You get a bunch of people in the room, they're going to generate far more ideas than one person sitting by themselves all night, staying up till midnight trying to figure out the answer to something. Like that juice, that energy that's created amongst it's magic, and that's where magic, right?
Yeah, and there's a caveat to that. Yeah. If the space feels safe, then more people share those ideas, and which is so elegant. Psychological safety is another buzzword floating around these days. It's a brilliant concept.
Yes.
I've seen managers try to implement this. They say, okay, we need our space to feel safer for people to share ideas. And so the boss sits down at a round table or at a staff meeting, says, I want all your feedback. And people, we're actually going to listen to it. We're going to take it in. We're going to process things. We're going to make things better. And the feedback gets collected and it gets reread by nobody.
Right.
And nothing changes.
Right.
And that's not psychological safety. In fact, I would argue you just made things less safe.
Very much so. I would agree with you.
Right.
Very much
you
so.
just trivialized people's feedback.
Yes.
They're not going to take another chance. So instead, how do you create it? And I think wonder, being actually vulnerable and asking questions and admitting you don't know stuff, is a really powerful way to set the stage.
There's nothing wrong with that at all. It's the vulnerability thing, and I get it. For a lot of leaders, they have it in their mind. This is how I should behave. This is how I should be. I should have all the answers. And if people come to me and I don't, I'm not being a good leader. And I think when we can break that down, that false armor that's built up, if you can just sort of strip that away and that be at the core of who we are, which is just human to human, connect with compassion and being able to hear me as much as I hear you, we can do these things. I think that makes the way and smooths the way out for the wonder and all the other wonderful things that can come out of it, I think.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah.
I love, I think sometimes in leadership, it feels a little bit like customer service, and not in the sense that you're dealing more from an employee side of things, I suppose, but people come to you constantly looking for answers. We might say like the best customer service reps are those who have all the answers.
Yes.
I would go a step further though, and say the best customer service reps actually don't have all the answers. They know what they know, but they also know what they don't know.
Yes.
And they know how to find it.
Yes.
Right. They'll say, I'm not the person to help you with the problem, but I know exactly who is.
That's right.
Right. Or I know exactly where to find the answer.
That's right.
And the best leaders, if they could be confident in their humility, this is a term Adam Grant has coined, confident humility. You know what you know, but you also know what you don't. And you're confident about that.
Mm-hmm.
You're okay with that. Then we open the door. Then it's like, I can ask a question or I can admit, I'm not sure about this.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
And I say this to teachers. I say it to parents. Gosh, what I wouldn't have done if some various points, my parents have been wonderful, but at various points when I was a kid, they would explain a rule to me, like I had made a mistake. And all I wanted was for them to admit they made the same mistake.
Yeah.
It would have made me feel like I get it. Of course, I'm not going to do it.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So maybe I'm speaking out of turn and I have all these opinions about this stuff, but I think we're And I think we're moving in a good direction. I think we're learning that we need the team. We need everybody on the bus to get where we want to go. And
that's right. That's right. Especially now more than ever before, Brandon. I think what's happening is we're realizing that so few and few, there's fewer and fewer of us that have the answer, because the answer is from all of us collectively. Yeah. There isn't one. You think of even political leaders, and I know we're really going on a tangent here, but you think of political leaders, and they may come up with a rule or a guideline or a whatever, but there might be impacts on others that they never thought of because they aren't familiar, they don't know. And so they and that's why the significance of doing things like consultations. You're consulting you're bringing more people in. You have to get input. You have to garner feedback. You have to get other thoughts or ideas before you can actually come out with something. And so I think, as you say that, we're getting it more and more. I think you're absolutely right. You're bang on for sure.
Yeah. We need trust. We need, and lots of times, it feels in many cases like we're not going in that direction. I know a lot of people feel more mistrusting of one another and mistrusting of leaders and decision makers and mistrusting managers, and maybe mistrusting of their children. I don't know, but there's a lot of it going around, and there are lessons to be learned in leading by example, giving trust to gain it, which is easy for me to say in my position, right? Sure. If somebody's been super burned by having given trust once,
right?
That's a higher slope to climb to give it again.
Yeah.
But without giving it, we don't gain it. And leadership is the same. If you give your employees trust, if you show them they have ownership, their decisions matter, their thoughts matter, and you want to hear them, that can, again, build the rapport, build the web, make it a unit and less about one versus others.
Yep. I'm so curious, Brandon, when you deal with leaders or managers or organizations, and you're wowing them with your tricks, and you're showing them about all the you're challenging with the illusions and the impossibilities that they never saw. What kind of feedback are you getting from them? Is it resonating with them, the messaging, or what are they telling you?
Yeah, so it's a good question. I try not to bill myself as a magician, but rather as a student of magic. I don't know that it makes a difference to people.
Okay.
But the idea of magic, it's another thing, right? There's a cloud of ideas that's attached to it. Some people picture the birthday party magician who does terrible tricks for $25.
Right.
Some people picture the TV person with dancers and tigers and big boxes getting cut in half.
Yep.
And or some people picture Disney, and fairies and Tinkerbell, and people just have these different ideas about what it could mean, and almost nobody in a professional context is really excited about it. In a personal context, everybody wants to see magic.
Sure.
But professionally, leaders are like, we can't hire a magician. That's awful. That's big money. So I try not to address it head on that way. I do come out and say I'm a student of magic.
Okay. And
I've learned more about how we think from the study of magic than any other of my disciplines. And I've studied philosophy and psychology and hypnosis and yoga and meditation and all of these different, ways of trying to understand how we create possibilities.
Yes.
And magic for me is the best of all tools.
Yes.
Because it reminds us of the limits of our perceptions. And there's a moment when, I usually share that lemon juice story. And that's a pretty heavy moment when managers get it, I think, when they go, oh yeah, like, of course. And we think about it we're like, how, it's debates rage online and we just want to say, you're wrong. I'm right.
Right. Yep.
And we're like, but what if, not that I am wrong, but if I'm willing to ask. So yeah, there's definitely skepticism, I think, when people learn I'm an entertainer turned educator.
Yep.
When people come into the room. But at least to my best knowledge, people leave hopefully with a few ideas tucked under their arm, and a few strategies they try to catch themselves.
Right. I can imagine there's some, that kind of walk with their arms crossed going, okay, let me see what he can, that kind of a thing. And so I guess to watch even that transformation is magical in itself for you.
100%. Yeah, everybody's a kid.
Yeah.
Everybody truly is a kid that's pretending to be an adult, parading.
Yes.
We do adult things, we make tough decisions, but everybody has that joy, that wonder is in them inherently. It's biological. So it's fun to get the chance to, I mean, not that it always happens. There's definitely, the one way to win people over who are a little more like this is to pretend that they know already. Because that's kind of what they're doing. They don't want to admit they don't.
Absolutely.
So I'll wink at those people and be like, shh, don't tell the secret, or whatever it is. Whatever it is. And they'll come up to me after a keynote or after a workshop.
I love it.
They'll stand side by side as though they're in on the trick, and whatever they need to do, I'm okay with it. But
I love it. That's awesome, Brandon. This has been awesome. It's been such a great chat, and again, the whole idea of just wonder and possibility, it's fabulous space to be within, because it allows us to really start thinking about what's beyond, right? And the spending some time thinking about what's beyond is growth. It's sure, I am here, but I'm not planted here, and where else can I go? And so being in that space of possibility and wonder, I think, is a good vehicle to get us there. And so I think the work that you do is fabulous, and I really appreciate this chat. And I mean, I'd be remiss if I didn't say if you have a trick. I know you did a little card trick there. You got another trick you can show us on the way out of here before we go?
Yeah, I can try something with you really quickly.
Sure.
I've been doing some, it's not super quick, but if you have a minute here.
Yeah.
Before I do this, let me say, I want to thank you for giving me the chance to ramble and wax poetic a little bit about the stuff I care so deeply about.
Yeah.
I hope if anybody out there has any questions or wants to talk about this stuff, I invite conversation. So please get in touch.
Yeah. We'll make sure that all the appropriate links and whatever contact information is there for you. So absolutely, we're going to do our part here. So for sure.
Wonderful. Okay. Let's make magic.
Let's do it.
So I was really skeptical at the beginning of this pandemic that we'd ever be able to do magic again. I had kind of almost quit because how am I going to show somebody a card trick?
Understood.
And then people started doing magic through the screen, through Zoom. And I realized, oh my gosh, I have already fallen in the confidence trap, right? I was convinced I had it figured out, and I missed the opportunity to invent new stuff in new circumstances.
Right.
We always need our own advice, don't we?
Yep.
So I've been playing with a trick. Now I can't give you a deck of cards through the screen, obviously, because that would be teleportation, and I haven't figured that out yet.
That's a whole other thing. Talk about wonder and possibility, eh?
Right? I'm not saying it's impossible yet.
That's right.
What I have here, though, this is a little invention of mine. I'll be honest, I didn't invent this, but I use it. This is, do you know what this is?
No, do tell.
This is a thin slice of imagination. This is a deck of playing cards.
Okay, sure.
It's invisible. Invisible. I'll invite you to play along. In fact, what's beautiful about this is I can actually pass this right through the camera.
Okay.
So if you reach up to your camera there, look at that.
Oh, wow, I got it. There we go.
Imagination is a powerful thing, my friend.
Yes, it is.
Play along with me. Take those cards out of the box. Cards out of the box.
Okay.
Yeah, and shuffle them up like you do.
Okay, let's just.
I know you play. Oh, look at that.
Look at that. I mean, there we go. We get that.
Can you do that rainbow shuffle?
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, I knew you could.
There you go. Okay. There you go. We're good.
I love playing with people who love to play. Now here's the thing. Oddly, some people are going to challenge this when they rewatch this. So we haven't set anything up. It's a pretend deck of cards as far as anybody's concerned.
Exactly.
But could you look through those cards right now? Okay. And I want you to see one of them, like an ace or a queen, not one of those maybe, because I just said them.
Okay.
And take that card. Don't say what it is just yet, but turn it upside down.
Okay.
So it's the only card going the opposite direction.
Yep.
Close up the box for me.
Okay. Put the rest in there.
Close up the pack, put it back in the box.
Okay. You want me to give them back to you?
Yeah, put them right back up to the screen if you don't mind.
All right, there we go. There we go.
Perfect. That'll be great. Thank you.
Perfect. All right. There we go. There we go.
Oh, look it.
There we go.
Isn't it amazing? Everything real starts in our minds. You know that, right? I know the viewers, the listeners, they're not going to believe that this is actually the same deck of cards, but I promise them
it is.
Visibility just sometimes wears off. Oddly, maybe you could tell me, did you did turn a card around?
I did.
What was the card you chose?
The Jack of Hearts.
For real? You're not kidding about that.
I chose a Jack of Hearts.
Look. Oops. Hold on. Look. I put one card. And only one card reversed in this deck. Wouldn't that be something if it was the Jack of Hearts?
Oh my goodness. Jack of Hearts.
I told you, it's the same deck. People don't want to believe it.
I love it. It was great. It was the Jack of Hearts I turned over. Wow.
Yeah, we haven't set anything up either, my friend.
This is not set up at all, but what it really does, it goes back and it illustrates the power of sort of magic, what it brings, right? Here I laughed, and I can guarantee you, Brandon, we'll go away and I'll laugh again. I'll go, oh my goodness, how did he do that? I'll start to wonder. I'll start to think. I'll start to try and figure it out myself. And again, all of those, that space to be in is a wonderful place to be in. So I thank you for illustrating that. Thank you for the trick. Thank you for being here. It's so awesome to have you. Again, this is the Audacious Living Podcast, and everything that we discuss, everything that we just went over the last half hour or so is very much in line with this podcast. So thank you so much for helping me continue my mission and further it.
Wishing you all a bunch of wonder and mystery in all aspects of your life. Thanks again, Audley. Appreciate it.
Take care. Be well, Brandon.
Bye-bye.
Back we are here on the Audacious Living Podcast, and I really appreciate Brandon for rolling through and spending some time with us here. Again, how did he know I had the Jack of Hearts? How did he know? I don't know. Again, that's one of those tricks we'll never find out about. But anyhow, I really appreciate you opening up our eyes to the impact of magic and wonder. It was so much fun. So really, really thank you. You know, Brandon left us with so much to think about. But, you know, if there was just one thing that I take from my conversation with him, it would be this. The basis of magic is to show you something you previously believed wasn't possible. And in so doing so, we're left, even if it's for a short moment, left to reconstruct what we thought to be true about the world and everything around us. Look, every single one of us have something that we completely believe in, but we're also completely wrong about. And it's for this reason why it's so necessary for us to continually challenge our own viewpoints and think beyond the box. Forget the limitations that we have. You know, break those barriers down. Use wonder to spark your imagination to create new and exciting possibilities. It's through these new and exciting possibilities that we'll be able to make this world a much more audacious place to live. Hey, listen, if you haven't registered for email notifications of the podcast, please know that you can do so simply by heading over to bestaudaciouslife.com. All you've got to do is enter in your email address and you will immediately be connected to all good things audacious living. You know, we've come to the end of the episode, but I got to take a moment and give a big shout out to our listeners. Ongoing support is tremendous. I appreciate the audacious group of folk that really support this podcast. It's such a pleasure to bring this to you each and every week. I do this because you guys keep pushing it, and that's how we do it. So thank you. Until next time, stay safe, be kind, show love to one another, and be audacious.
You've been listening to the Audacious Living Podcast, hosted by Audley Stevenson. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, be audacious.